welcome to my channel. It is nice to have you here. I remember my mother telling my older sister and I that we were going on a trip, and we were very excited about the trip. We were going to travel on this huge ship. It was a beautiful sunny day. We boarded the ship. Minutes later, after we boarded the ship started to sail away. After we waved goodbye, we went into our room. It was 3 levels on the left side and 3 levels on the right side. My mother and my older sister was on one side. I was on the lower level. My sister was in the middle, and my mother was on the top level. And on the other side were 3 other ladies that we did not know. They were complete strangers. We met them while we were on the ship. So we settled down and put our luggages away and sat down and hang out for a while. And the sun had set. It was a beautiful night. So my sister and I decided to go outside and just watch the moon and enjoy the nice ocean breeze. And so we walked outside and stood against the rail and just looking at the ocean, looking at the moon, enjoying the breeze. But I noticed that there were 3 young men standing a distance away from us. And I didn't pay much attention to the young men that were standing there. I kept talking to my sister. We were just laughing and enjoying the moment. But something told me to just look back again at the young men that were standing there. I don't know why, but I just turned around and looked. The second time I noticed them, now they were looking towards my sister and I direction. They were looking at us. And I didn't make anything of it at the time. I'm like, okay, maybe they're interested. They're looking. There's nothing wrong with looking. Just don't come over here. And so I turned away and I kept talking to my sister. And another thought came to my head, just look back at the young man. I looked again, and when I looked, they were still staring at us. I'm like, no, that something is strange here. Something is strange. I started to feel very uncomfortable, and I was even nervous, to be honest, to the point now I was scared. So I went to feeling uncomfortable, to nervous, to scared. And I looked at my sister and I said, I think we should go. I don't feel safe here. But she didn't really agree with me because she wanted to hang out outside, and I wanted to hang out as well. But it's something within me that kept telling me we have to go. And we all know what that something was. It was God warning me, warning us that we needed to leave because something was not right. And after I insisted, my sister decided that we were going to leave. So we walked away and went back into our room. I went to bed because I was kind of tired, and she went into bed also and laid down. Minutes later, I noticed the 3 young men that were standing out there were standing outside of our room because we didn't shut the door, because the room was very small and congested, and it didn't have a large window, so we left the door open so fresh air can come into the room. And I noticed that they were standing outside of the room. I was a bit concerned as to why they were standing there. But because I was with my mother and my sister was in the room and 3 other ladies were there, I felt safe. I felt like there was no reason for me to be concerned. They could stand there and look. What can they do? I'm with my mother. So I felt comfortable, and I eventually fell asleep. I don't know how many hours had gone by, and I was awakening from my nap, and I felt something next to me. I didn't know what it was because, I was not fully awake and I was just awakening from the nap. And I turned my body, and as I was moving my body, I felt like I felt as if it was another body laying next to me. And I opened my eyes and I realized that it was one of the young men that had came into the room and laid next to me. And I immediately screamed. And my mother heard my scream. And she jumped from her bed from the third level and landed on the floor. So he was afraid and he tried to get out, to run away. But my mother was talking with the ladies that were sharing the room with us. And the lady looked at me with this strange look and she said, "Your daughter looks like my sister." And my mother asked her, "What is your sister's name?" My mother was like, "No way. That is my husband's sister." And she asked my mother, "What is your husband's name?" And my mother told her the lady that was sharing the room with us was my aunt. She was my father's sister. And she said that as I laid in my bed, I saw the young man walk into the room and he went and laid next to your daughter. But she didn't really know who we were. I was looking to see if he was going to do anything inappropriate or touch your daughter inappropriately. And if he did, then I would intervene. And that is when I realized that the young man was laying next to me and screamed, and my mother intervened, and the ladies got up and they did what they needed to do to get him out of the room. And I'd like to say, sometimes we ignore our gut feelings. Sometimes we feel a certain way about a person, or we feel a certain way about it in an environment. Maybe, you might be out with a friend, or you might be hanging out at a party somewhere, and you feel that there's something that's not right. Don't question it. And I know sometimes you question it, we're like, it's just me, there's nothing wrong, everything is fine. But if you still feel that urge in your spirit, like there's an alarm going off in your spirit, don't ignore it, because we're living in times we don't know who's in our environment. There are people walking around with ill intentions. There are people walking around with the sole purpose just looking for someone to hurt. And you never know when you might cross paths with that individual. It's good to be spiritually in tune. When you feel a certain way about a person, just be careful. Don't let your guards down. Keep your guards up at all times. I thank God that I listened to my gut feeling and left that night and went back into the room. And even though he followed me into the room, but he couldn't do what he wanted to do because my mother was there and she intervened and protected me. And I thank God for his divine protection and for keeping me. And that was my testimony. And have a good one.